At the family reunion, my mom said, "You're still just a waitress, right?" I smiled. Then my fiancé said, "Actually, she owns the restaurant chain. And yours just got sold." At our family reunion, right as dessert was being served, my mom turned to me and said, "You're still just a waitress, right?" Before laughing like it was some cute little joke. I smiled and was going to let it slide, as usual, but before I could respond, my fiancé calmly said, "Actually, she owns the restaurant chain. And yours just got sold." The entire table went dead silent. Turns out, the fancy bistro my mom brags about to all her friends? We just bought it. I haven't heard from her since that night, and while part of me is relieved, another part wonders what comes next. When people say family is everything, I used to smile and nod, pretending it made sense to me. Because I grew up in a home where success was love, and love was conditional. My mother, Lorraine, is a woman who could have run a Fortune 500 company had she not been born in a different time. She's sharp, beautiful, charismatic in the way Southern women are taught to be from birth. But instead of applying that drive to something meaningful, she poured it into constructing the perfect family on paper, at least. Growing up in Asheville, North Carolina, our house always looked like a catalog spread. Immaculate, stylish, sterile. My dad, Dennis, was a quieter high school English teacher who read more than he spoke. He eventually divorced my mother when I was 25. It was a long time coming. He moved to a quiet cabin near Boone and found peace. I haven't seen him as much as I'd like, but that's a story for another day. I have a younger sister, Paige. She was Lorraine's pride and joy. A straight-A student. NYU. Now works for a lobbying firm in D.C. She speaks 3 languages, and Mom has monogrammed stationery with Paige's headshot printed in the corner. That's only a slight exaggeration. And then there's me. Mallory. The daughter who loved food and hated law school. Who dropped out after a year and started waitressing to pay rent. The family disappointment. I used to cry about it not having my mom's approval. I'd think if I could just accomplish enough, she'd see me. But her voice has followed me through every stage of my life. When I opened my first restaurant at 28, she asked if I was sure this was a stable idea. When I made the local business journal, she said she didn't read those kinds of magazines. When I got engaged to Noah, her first words were, "He doesn't seem like your type. Is he controlling?" It's like nothing I did could ever register as real in her world. The reunion was her idea, of course. Family is drifting, she said, even though she's the reason most of us drifted in the first place. It was to be held at her new house, a sprawling, painfully modern thing in Biltmore Forest that looked like someone airlifted a Miami mansion into the Blue Ridge Mountains. Noah and I drove in from Charlotte. I hadn't been back to Asheville in almost a year. My stomach was in knots the whole drive. "You can leave any time," Noah said, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on my thigh. He always knows when I need grounding. "You don't owe anyone anything." I nodded. I said I knew, but I didn't. "Not really." Lorraine greeted us like we were business clients, smiles too wide, kisses too fake. "You put on weight, haven't you?" "You must be eating well," she laughed. Then her eyes flicked to Noah, her voice sugary sweet. "And you must be a corporate lawyer." Very serious. He smiled politely. I knew he was already tallying the red flags. Inside, there were about 20 people, aunts, cousins, some family friends I barely remembered. Everyone was talking over each other, making small talk about real estate and college applications and how people don't want to work anymore. My cousin Felix was there with a guy who once tried to sell me on his pyramid scheme at a funeral. Aunt Marianne, who had 4 kids by 4 different men but acts like she invented chastity. And, of course, Paige. Immaculate Paige, with her designer dress and curated modesty. I stayed near the drinks table. Noah made polite conversation like a champ, but I could feel his protective instincts humming under the surface. Dinner was served outside. The table was set like something out of a Pottery Barn catalog. candles in mason jars, matching place cards, fresh cut eucalyptus. Lorraine gave a long, performative toast about how proud she was of her girls. She managed to mention Paige's job title twice and my name not once. I smiled through it. I always do. Then came dessert. Lemon tarts, which were, frankly, too tart. Everyone was talking about Asheville's growth and property taxes and the new Italian place that opened downtown when Lorraine turned to me and said, "So, Mallory, you're still just a waitress, right?" She laughed. Like it was cute. Like she wasn't getting me in front of the entire table. I didn't respond right away. I just smiled, nodded slightly. I was used to her. Used to being sliced open with a silver spoon. But then Noah looked up from his plate. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't lean in. He just said, cool as anything, actually, she owns the restaurant chain. There was a hush. Noah wasn't done. Root and Vine. You might have heard of it. 22 locations. We just closed a deal last week, actually. He turned to face her more directly. His voice stayed soft. We acquired the Ashcroft Bistro Group. That includes the Copper Lily. That was the moment. The moment I saw it click in her head. The Copper Lily is her spot. The place she and her friends go after Pilates and wine tastings. The place she name drops to prove her taste. She blinked. What? It's hers now, he said. Yours just got sold. There was no dramatic gasp. No breaking of glass. Just the quiet collapse of control. Her face froze. A fork clinked onto a plate. Paige looked stunned. Aunt Marianne audibly whispered, "Oh my God." I stood up, brushed my napkin off my lap, and said, "Anyone want coffee?" That was it. That was the shift. The rest of the night felt like a strange fever dream. After Noah's statement, there was this long, strained pause where nobody seemed to know what to say. Then, like someone flipped a switch, everyone suddenly pretended they hadn't just witnessed a small social explosion at the dinner table. Paige started talking loudly to Felix about a new Thai place in D.C. Aunt Marianne commented on how cold the breeze was getting. Someone coughed. Someone else laughed too loudly at something unfunny. And Lorraine? She stayed quiet. She didn't look at me. Her hands were folded in her lap, one thumb slowly rubbing the back of the other like she was thinking hard about something, anything except the moment that had just happened. I stood, offering coffee like it was any other evening, and made my way back inside. The kitchen was silent, save for the quiet hum of the fridge. My heels clicked softly against the marble floor. I filled the carafe, tried to steady my breathing, and stared at my reflection in the microwave door. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. I felt cracked open. I'd spent my entire adult life trying to prove to her that I was enough. That my life built from long nights in kitchens and weekends spent scrubbing down prep stations meant something. That it wasn't just a consolation prize for not becoming the daughter she wanted. And now, I'd finally said it well, Noah had, and it landed. She knew. They all did. It should have felt like vindication, but it mostly felt hollow. Like I had won something I never should have had to fight for. When I came back with the coffee, Lorraine was no longer at the table. I asked Paige where she went, and she said, upstairs. Said she had a headache. She wouldn't look at me. The rest of the night blurred. We left an hour later. I hugged a few relatives, exchanged stiff smiles with the rest. Paige gave me a long look, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I didn't push her. Noah and I drove back to the hotel in silence. When we finally got in, I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto the bed, burying my face in the covers. That was intense, I said, muffled by the blanket. Noah sat beside me, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. You handled it with more grace than I would have. I didn't handle anything. You did. No, he said quietly. You've been handling this for years. I just said what you never should have had to. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept rewinding, dissecting every glance, every breath, every word exchanged. I wondered if Lorraine would ever call. I wondered if I wanted her to. The days after the reunion were weird. Paige texted me 2 days later, "Hey. Just wanted to say sorry about Mom." That was out of line. It was short. Careful. But it was the most acknowledgement I'd gotten from her in a long time. I replied, "Thanks. Appreciate it." She didn't follow up. Lorraine didn't call. Not that day. Not that week. I kept waiting for it to be a snide comment disguised as a peace offering, or maybe a backhanded apology that still somehow blamed me. But silence was all I got. And in that silence, something began to shift. I didn't check my phone as often. I stopped mentally composing responses to things she might say. My brain, finally, had a little extra room to breathe. Noah, meanwhile, was as calm and steady as always. He never brought it up unless I did. He just held space. Made dinner. Took calls for work. Gently reminded me that the wedding venue needed confirming. And Root and Vine? It kept moving forward. Our newest location in Athens had just finished renovations, and we were negotiating a partnership with a sustainable seafood supplier. The team was thriving. My executive chef, Marcus, sent me a photo of the staff after their Friday prep, faces beaming, aprons stained, holding trays of fresh rosemary focaccia. These were my people. My world. I built it with bare hands and tired feet. And for the first time in a long while, I felt proud, not just publicly, but privately. One morning, about 2 weeks after the reunion, I got a text from my Aunt Marianne. "Your mom's been telling people she let you buy that bistro as a favor to the family. LOL. Just thought you should know." I stared at the message for a long time. Of course she was. Control, for Lorraine, was never about what was true. It was about what she could make other people believe. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Let her spin her stories. The truth had already changed hands, and this time, I didn't feel compelled to correct her. Noah watched me across the breakfast table, raising one eyebrow. "Something up?" he asked, sipping his coffee. "Nothing worth ruining a perfectly good Saturday," I replied, locking my phone and turning back to my toast. And I meant it. A few nights later, I got an email. From Lorraine. Subject line: "Call me." The body of the email was empty. No greeting. No sign-off. Just those 2 words, floating in the blank space like a dare. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I read it 3 times. Then I closed the laptop and walked out to the back porch. It was cool outside, the kind of early spring evening where you need a sweater but not a jacket. Noah followed me out, a glass of wine in each hand. I showed him the email. He didn't say anything. Just wait. "I don't know what she wants," I said, staring at the stars. "I think she might try to reel me back in. Like, twist everything. Make it my fault again." "She might," he said. "But that doesn't mean you have to answer." "I know." And I did. I let the email sit in my inbox for 3 more days. No follow-up. No call. Just the 2-word subject line, "Call me," hanging in digital space like bait on a hook. Part of me kept imagining she'd write again. Maybe elaborate. Maybe apologize, though I knew better. Lorraine wasn't the kind of person who apologized. Not sincerely. If she ever said "I'm sorry," it came with terms and footnotes. Eventually, I forwarded the email to myself, then deleted the original. It felt oddly empowering. Like I had control over how and when I wanted to face it, if at all. In the meantime, life carried on. Noah and I went back to work. Our wedding planner was pestering us for final decisions. We were planning a small ceremony in Highlands, North Carolina, mountain views, simple food, and close friends. None of the extravagance Lorraine would expect. I hadn't officially decided if she was invited yet. Every day I didn't answer her email made that decision easier. About a week later, I got a call from my cousin Felix, the pyramid scheme guy. He rarely called unless he needed something, so I debated even picking up. But curiosity won. "Hey Mel," he started, a little too upbeat. "What's up?" "Just checking in." Wanted to say, the reunion was something else, huh? I waited. People like Felix don't call just to check in. "I saw your fiancé on LinkedIn. Dude's got credentials," he added, chuckling. "Thanks," I said, flatly. Then the real reason came. "So listen, I'm trying to get something off the ground. It's a boutique marketing concept, very Gen Z forward. I'm doing a launch event in Raleigh next month. Thought maybe your restaurants would want to sponsor. You know, cross-promotion." There it was. I exhaled, the kind of tired exhale that goes bone deep. "Felix," I said, "we're not looking to sponsor events right now." Long pause. "Oh. Cool, cool. Yeah. Just thought I'd ask." "No worries." I hung up, walked into the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. The weight of that call wasn't about Felix. It was about what always followed the ripple effect of standing up to Lorraine. The moment you break out of her gravitational pull, others come orbiting in, looking for pieces they can grab. The following Sunday, Paige called. I almost didn't answer. But she rarely called. Texting was more her style, and something in my gut said pick up. "Hey," she said. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Hey." There was a pause. "Do you have a second?" I stepped onto the back deck. "Yeah. What's going on?" "I talked to Mom yesterday." I braced myself. "She's not okay." I didn't say anything. I let the silence sit there, giving her room to fill it if she wanted. "She's embarrassed. And angry. But mostly embarrassed." "I figured," I said. "She told me you humiliated her." I let out a bitter laugh before I could stop it. "She humiliated herself," I said. "She asked if I was still just a waitress. In front of 20 people. I know." "I told her that," Paige said, quietly. "She doesn't hear it." "Of course not. She thinks you set her up. Like you brought Noah there knowing he'd say something." I didn't respond right away. "I didn't plan it," I finally said. "But I'm not sorry it happened." "I didn't say you should be." Another pause. "I guess I just. I don't know." "She's spiraling. She's been telling people you bought the restaurant to punish her." There it was again. Lorraine's world where facts don't matter, just narrative. Where everything that challenges her authority becomes an attack. I bought the group because it made business sense. I didn't even know she liked that place. "I know that," Paige said. "I think deep down, she does too." Then she added, "She doesn't know how to not be the most important person in the room." I leaned against the porch railing and stared out at the trees. The wind moved slow and steady, pushing spring towards summer. "She's not the most important person anymore," I said. "And she can't handle it." "No," Paige agreed. "She really can't." There was another long silence between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Just full. Finally, I said, "How are you doing?" Paige sighed. "Tired. Trying to keep the peace, I guess." "You don't have to," I said gently. "It's not your job to hold her world together." "I know," she said. I don't want things to get worse." "Sometimes they have to get worse before they get better." "I hate that that's true," she muttered. We talked a bit longer about work, our partners, and the weather. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. When we hung up, I felt like maybe something good could still come out of all this mess. About 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a text. A letter. Handwritten. On thick, linen stationery. My mother's handwriting. The kind she used when signing holiday cards or addressing envelopes to country club friends. I stared at the envelope for a long time. I didn't open it right away. Just held it, wondering what version of her lived inside those pages. Noah came home while I was sitting with it in my lap. "You okay?" he asked. I showed him the envelope. He sat beside me and waited. Didn't press. After a minute, I stood, walked into the study, and left the letter on my desk unopened. Not because I was afraid, but because I realized something important. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't need to hear what she had to say. The letter sat on my desk for 5 more days. I walked past it every morning, coffee in hand, and every evening, tired from work. Some days I felt curious. Others, almost indifferent. But mostly, I felt powerful. Like someone who no longer needed to crack open old wounds just to prove they were there. Eventually, I opened it. It was shorter than I expected. "Mallory, I suppose I owe you some version of an apology. I didn't intend to embarrass you." I was joking, though clearly it didn't land that way. "But you know how I am. I speak plainly. It was never that I wasn't proud of you. I just didn't understand the choices you made. I still don't. But I see that they've worked for you, and I can't argue with success. That said, I didn't appreciate being corrected at my own dinner table. That was disrespectful, regardless of intent. I'll leave it at that." Mom, it was, in every way, the most Lorraine note she could have written. Passive. Vague. Coded in the kind of backhanded sentiment she'd mastered years ago. But here's the thing, I didn't feel rage. Or disappointment. I didn't even feel the urge to reply. I just felt done. And being truly done with someone like Lorraine is its own kind of revenge. Because people like her thrive on control, on keeping you on the hook. They push you, pull you, keep you dancing for approval you'll never fully earn. And when you finally stop needing it, when you really stop, it guts them. I didn't burn her letter. I didn't frame it. I folded it and put it in a drawer in my home office, beneath a stack of invoices and blank business checks. Then I got to work. In the months that followed, Root and Vine expanded faster than even we had projected. The Copper Lily underwent a quiet rebranding. Nothing flashy. We didn't plaster my name on it. We just improved the food, trained the staff better, and added a seasonal tasting menu. The wine list got tighter. The ambience is more intimate. And people noticed. One afternoon, I was reviewing supplier contracts when our general manager from the Asheville location called me. "You're not going to believe who just walked in. Try me. Lorraine Gates. She made a reservation under a different name." I blinked. "Did she recognize you?" "Oh yeah." And she looked pissed that I didn't seem surprised. "What did you do?" I smiled, showed her to her table, and told her we hope she enjoys her evening. Just like any other guest. I laughed. Not a petty laugh, a real one. It felt good. "Thanks, Monica," I said. "She left a 10% tip," she added. Still consistent. We both laughed. I didn't tell Noah right away. I wanted to sit with it. Process it. The next morning, while we were walking the Greenway Trail near our house, I finally mentioned it. "She ate at Copper Lily last night." Noah raised his brows. "Did she?" "Used a fake name." "Of course she did." I nodded. "She saw what we did with it." "She knows." "She knows," he echoed. "Then, that's gotta feel good." "It does," I said. "But not for the reasons I thought it would." "Tell me." "It's not revenge. Why?" "I don't want her to choke on her entree or storm out. I just wanted her to see. To realize I did it without her. Despite her." "And you did," he said. "You really did. We got married that fall." A tiny ceremony, just 30 people, all of them chosen. No obligation guests. Paige came. She brought a quiet, kind man named Marcus who worked in environmental policy. She cried during my vows, held my hand during the first toast, and stayed late helping me pack centerpieces into boxes. Lorraine wasn't invited. I didn't even debate it. She never asked about the wedding, never brought it up again. Maybe she was waiting for me to come crawling back with an olive branch. Maybe she was relieved not to come. But when we sent out our thank you cards, I mailed her one too. No note. No message. Just a simple 5x7 card that read, "Thank you for showing me everything I never wanted to become." That was the last time we spoke. Paige keeps in touch. She visits now and then. She still treads carefully around Mom, but I can tell the spell is breaking for her too. She doesn't defer as much. Doesn't justify her mood swings. Lorraine still lives in that big, expensive house in Biltmore. Still hosts luncheons and pretends she owns the restaurant she lost. Still spins the story the way she wants it to be told. But I don't correct her anymore. I don't need to. Because real success is the kind that sticks, doesn't need to be shouted from rooftops or proven with family trees. It speaks in full dining rooms. In team members who thrive. In love that doesn't shrink you. And sometimes, in the quiet revenge of watching someone who tried to keep you small, sit down at your table and pay the bill.